My name is Clara. I am 71. I raised a life from an orphanage room, from the smell of disinfectant, metal cots, and the echo of tiny footsteps in empty hallways. That day I found Ethan. He was 3 years old, clutching a broken toy and trembling so softly it felt like his fear might crack the air around him. I adopted him, gave him my last name, and stitched our lives together with double shifts, late-night bus rides, and the kind of tiredness a mother learns to hide. Samuel, my lawyer and oldest confidant, always warned me to prepare for everything, so I kept certain documents safe, though I never imagined I would need them, not against my own child. For years Ethan was my joy. His first words, his scraped knees, the way he used to run into my arms after school. All of it made the sacrifices feel small. I worked 2 jobs, tucked away coins for his tuition, and watched him grow into a young man I believed would honor the love poured into him. The night he brought home his engineering diploma, I cried alone at the kitchen table, grateful and exhausted, thinking everything had finally been worth it. Then Brooke arrived. I welcomed her the way lonely mothers welcome hope, with open doors, open arms, and open-hearted foolishness. At first she smiled sweetly, but sweetness can hide the sharpest edges. "The soup is too salty," she said one evening, scrunching her nose as if tasting something spoiled. Another time she looked at my blouse and whispered, "A little too young for your age, don't you think?" Tiny cuts delivered in sugar-coated tones. What hurt more was Ethan's change. Where he once defended me, he began to stay silent. Where he once argued playfully, he began to nod obediently. And the first time he chose Brooke's cold silence over my smile, something inside me shifted. Calls got shorter. Visits became rare. Invitations turned into "we'll let you know." By the time they announced their engagement, with a staged family dinner I was the last to hear about, I felt like a guest in a life I had built with my own hands. Still, when the wedding day came, I dressed with trembling hope. I wore the dress I had saved for years, fixed my hair slowly, and took a taxi to the venue praying he'd see me and remember. At the reception desk the woman frowned at the list. "I'm sorry, ma'am, you're not here." Behind her, fairy lights glowed softly, guests clinked glasses, laughter floated in warm circles, and I stood alone outside all of it. Ethan approached, handsome in his tuxedo, the boy I once knew buried somewhere beneath polished indifference. "Mom, what are you doing here?" His tone wasn't surprised. It was annoyed. Then he rolled his eyes and whispered, "Did you really think you were going to be invited?" The words hit like winter wind. I could have broken. I could have begged. But instead a strange calm settled over me. "I understand," I said with a soft smile. "Have a beautiful wedding." I turned and walked away. Outside the air felt sharper, cleaner. I sat in a taxi, exhaled decades of suppressed hurt, and dialed Samuel. "It's time," I told him. He hesitated. "Clara, once we begin there's no going back." My reflection in the window looked older, wiser, and finally awake. "I am completely sure. They thought they had humiliated me. What they didn't know was the secret I protected for decades. And tomorrow I would begin to show them everything." That night, after walking away from the wedding, I returned home to a silence that felt deeper than usual. I stood in my kitchen, the same small kitchen where I had packed Ethan's school lunches, where I had prayed over bills, where I had cried after long shifts, and the weight of everything finally settled. Ethan believed I was just a retired secretary with barely enough to survive. He had no idea, none at all, who I truly was or what I carried. When my father died 10 years ago, his final letter to me had only 5 words. "Live well, not loudly, Clara." Those words stayed with me. Maybe that's why I never flaunted what he left behind. The properties in Geneva, the European investments, the accounts that could have rewritten my entire life. I kept living as though nothing had changed because love meant more to me than comfort. But now, I saw how silence had turned into invisibility. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed in the dim room as if waiting for this moment. With careful clicks, I initiated the plan Samuel and I had discussed quietly over the years, not because I expected betrayal, but because Samuel always said, "Prepare for storms even when the sky is clear." I paused the automatic payments I had been making for Ethan. I shifted property documents. I closed credit extensions he had relied on without ever knowing. Then I called Samuel. "It begins tonight," I told him. There was sadness in his voice. "Clara, I'm sorry. Truly. So am I whispered. But I can't be the roof over a man who refuses to see I existed. 3 days later, while Ethan and Brooke were uploading smiling honeymoon photos from Cancun, Ethan called me. Not to check on me, not to apologize, not even to acknowledge the scene at the wedding. His voice was cold, practical. Mom, I need you to go check on the apartment. Water the plants, take in the mail, and make sure the laundry's done. Brooke wants everything neat when we get back. It wasn't a request. It wasn't even a suggestion. It was an order. I can't, I said quietly. What do you mean you can't? He snapped. Just do it. We're busy. I'm busy too, Ethan. Find someone else. I hung up. Half an hour later, Brooke called. At first her voice was fake sweet, that sugary tone she used when trying to sound polite. Clara, hi, she said tightly. I'm just calling because Ethan said you refused to help with the apartment. I'm sure it was just confusion. Silence. Then she cracked. You know what, forget confusion. What is wrong with you? It's the least you can do after the little show you put on at our wedding. I didn't make a show, I replied calmly. I congratulated my son and I left. Well, your son doesn't want you anywhere near us. Get it through your head. You're nothing but a burden. Her words hung in the air, sharp but strangely clear. You're right, Brooke, I said softly. A burden should know when to step aside. What does that even mean? She demanded. It means, I answered, I'm retiring. Retiring? From what? From being a mother. I ended the call. For a long moment I stood still, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of a car passing outside, the faint creak of the house settling. Then I breathed, really breathed for the first time in years. For the first time in years the air felt lighter. I wasn't empty. I was finally free. But freedom always has a price, and soon Ethan and Brooke would discover what life looks like without the woman who'd carried them for decades. What hits them next hits hard. The sun was barely rising when Ethan and Brooke returned from their honeymoon, still drowsy from travel, unaware that their old life had already ended sometime between I do and the moment they erased me from their wedding. They walked into the quiet hallway of their building expecting comfort, and instead found a bright yellow notice taped to their door. Electricity disconnected due to non-payment. Minutes later my phone rang. Mom! Ethan's voice was sharp, irritated. Why didn't you pay the electric bill for my house? Brooke is freaking out. Do you know how embarrassing this is? Just fix it. I didn't sigh, didn't tremble, not anymore. Ethan, I said gently, it's not my house. What does that mean? He snapped. It means, I said, I am no longer your mother. For a second he was silent, stunned by the very sentence he had forced me to learn. Mom, don't be ridiculous. It was just a wedding. Exactly, I whispered. Just a wedding, the clearest mirror you ever held up to me. He scoffed as if cruelty could be undone by tone. You've always paid my utilities. It's your obligation. My obligation ended, I replied. The moment you decided I didn't fit the image you wanted to project. Before he could speak, I ended the call. Then I dialed Mr. Harrison. When he answered, his voice sounded tired but respectful. Clara, I assume you're calling about Ethan. How has he been performing? I asked. A heavy pause followed. Truthfully? Very poorly. For a long time. Years ago, I had asked him to give Ethan a chance, and he had done far more. Lateness, mistakes, client complaints. I had covered the losses, paid for appeasements, smoothed things over without Ethan ever knowing. But today? Today was different. Handle him as you would any employee, I said quietly. I won't intervene again. I understand, he replied. Later that afternoon another shock hit. Brooke went shopping as she always did. Her arms full of expensive fabrics she believed she had earned. At checkout the cashier's polite smile faltered. That subtle awkward twitch people give when they sense a storm. I'm sorry, ma'am, she said gently. This card is declined, and marked as cancelled. Brooke froze. That card never declines. Try again. But the system flashed the same result. Because the truth was simple. That card had always been mine. She had just been borrowing a life she didn't earn. That evening her rage exploded over the phone. Clara, you canceled my credit card. It wasn't yours to begin with. You're jealous. Petty. A bitter old woman trying to ruin us. No, I said, calm as a closed door. I simply won't fund my own disrespect. She screamed until her voice broke, but I had heard worse storms before. The next day, I arrived at Ethan's office. I stepped out of a black car. Not flaunting wealth, just carrying dignity the way I should have years ago. Inside the lobby, the receptionist instinctively stood up. Not because she knew who I was, but because of how I walked. Straight. Clear. Unapologetic. Employees whispered. Ethan emerged, startled. Mom? What are you doing here? I came to talk, I said. Privately. In the conference room, I dialed Mr. Harrison. A few minutes later, he entered holding a thick folder. He set it on the table with a soft thud. The weight of 3 years of truth. Ethan, he said. These are your performance reports. Pages turned. Lateness. Errors. Clients requesting he be removed from accounts. Ethan stared. Disbelief draining the color from his face. But why didn't anyone tell me? He whispered. Because your mother asked for patience, Harrison replied. She apologized to clients on your behalf. She paid for several of your errors out of her own pocket. Ethan turned toward me, eyes wide, throat tightening. Mom, please. He looked like a boy again, scared, small, unprepared for reality. I stood slowly. You're right, Ethan. A mother might step in. I held his gaze. But I retired. And I walked away, leaving behind the man who once was a child in my arms, and the truth he never wanted to face. Losing his job shattered him. But the next revelation will destroy the world he thought he built, because the house, the lifestyle, the comfort he claimed as his own was never his. The earthquake is just beginning. The morning after Ethan lost his job, their world cracked open again. They found an envelope at their door, thick papers, an embossed seal, that unmistakable legal weight. The kind of document that changes everything the second your fingers touch it. When Ethan unfolded the pages, the color drained from his face. It was the deed to their house. Except it wasn't theirs. It had never been theirs. I bought this house, Ethan whispered, reading desperately as if the ink might change. But the signatures didn't lie. I had paid the down payment. I had co-signed the loan. I had paid years of mortgages in silence. Brooke grabbed the papers, skimmed feverishly, and froze at the final page. Ownership, Clara. Rent due monthly, $3,000. Vacate or pay within 30 days. Her scream ripped through the living room. This has to be a joke. She stole our home. No, Ethan murmured, voice trembling. It was never our home. Their shouting escalated, rattling picture frames and walls. Glass shattered. A lamp broke. Pots clattered onto the floor. The fight grew loud enough that neighbors peeked through door cracks, whispering. Moments later, blue and red lights washed over the neighborhood, flashing against windows, reflecting in the glossy paint of parked cars. 2 officers stepped inside the chaotic living room. Brooke crying, Ethan defeated, broken plates everywhere. An officer scanned the documents and said, with cold authority, "This property belongs to a woman named Clara. Not either of you." Brooke crumpled. "This is our home," she whispered. "Ma'am," the officer said gently but firmly, "not according to these legal records." Their humiliation became a spectacle. Neighbors watching, cameras peeking, whispers spreading through the hall like wildfire. Late that night, after the police left and the house fell silent, Ethan called me. His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't entitled. It wasn't even adult. "Mom." A soft, trembling breath. Everything's falling apart. For a moment, the past flickered. For a moment, he didn't sound like a husband, or an engineer, or the man who had rolled his eyes at me at his own wedding. He sounded like the little boy who once clung to my apron strings when thunder scared him. But tenderness is not the same thing as forgetting. "Ethan," I said softly, "you do what grown people do. You start over." A long silence. "I never thought you'd actually walk away," he whispered. "That," I said, "was your mistake." Meanwhile, Brooke was exploding online. She posted house photos, crying selfies, dramatic captions like, "My psycho mother-in-law is destroying our lives. She kicked us out after ruining our wedding. Help us expose her." She tagged me publicly, hoping strangers would burn me alive. First they did. Insults poured in. Witch. Monster mother-in-law. Jealous old woman. I sat in my hotel suite reading them. The suite quiet, expensive, nothing like my old kitchen where I once swallowed pain silently while stirring cheap soup for Ethan. But now I wasn't that woman. And the world was about to realize that too. Because soon people who actually knew me began sending messages. Clara, she's lying. Tell your side. You deserve to speak. That was the moment a single thought settled in my chest. Her lies had been loud. It was finally time for my truth to be louder. In the next module, Clara steps into the spotlight, releasing recordings, receipts, and evidence that flips public opinion overnight. The internet war begins. And Brooke is about to lose everything. Brooke's lies didn't just spread. They exploded. Her mascara-streaked face was everywhere. Retweeted by strangers, stitched into reaction videos, shared with dramatic music that made her look like a tragic heroine in a cheap soap opera. Clara ruined our wedding. She kicked us out of our home. She's jealous, manipulative, controlling. Strangers believed her instantly. They always believe the one who cries loudest. Insults poured onto my name. From my hotel suite, I watched the chaos unfold. Warm lights glowed against the glass walls, Geneva brochures lay scattered on the coffee table, and the quiet hummed like a soft heartbeat. But this quiet wasn't the suffocating silence of my old kitchen. This quiet was different. Not lonely but earned. Messages began arriving from people who actually knew me. Clara, she's lying. You need to speak. Please defend yourself. And then the message that stayed with me. Your kindness is being used as a weapon against you. It's time to stop being silent. I opened my social media account, untouched for years, and began typing. My name is Clara, and this is the truth. I wrote everything. How Ethan was abandoned at 3. How I adopted him with nothing but love. How I worked double shifts, carrying him through childhood on tired feet. How I paid for his education, his house, his loans, his entire lifestyle quietly. How Brooke had humiliated me for years. How I was erased from his wedding. No insults. No rage. Just facts wrapped in dignity. Then came the evidence. Mortgage receipts. Bank transfers. Screenshots of Brooke's insults. Job performance reports. The deed. And then the recordings. Before posting them, I hesitated. Not out of fear but out of grief. These were the voices of people I once believed were my family. But truth deserves light. I uploaded the audio clips. Brooke's voice snarled across timelines. You're a burden. You have no dignity. You embarrass us. Stay out of our lives. Then Ethan's voice, indifferent, cutting. Did you really think you were going to be invited? You don't fit the image we want. The internet froze. Then erupted. Comments flipped instantly. Oh my God, Brooke lied. This is heartbreaking. Clara deserved so much better. Team Clara forever. Hashtags rose like wildfire. Hashtag Team Clara. Hashtag respect mothers. Hashtag truth has power. Brooke panicked hard. She launched a live stream. Mascara smudged, voice shaking, trying to save her image. She rambled, contradicted herself, blamed everyone but herself. But viewers demanded proof. Evidence. Consistency. Then, in the middle of her spiraling monologue, I typed into the chat, "Hello Brooke. Would you mind if I join?" The reaction was instant. Comments flew so fast the screen blurred, hearts, flames, shocked emojis flooding like a storm. Let her in. Oh, this is about to get real. Bring Clara up now. Brooke is done. Brooke froze at the sight of my name. Her nightmare had just walked into the room. Next module, Clara joins the live stream, and the confrontation becomes one of the most viral moments in internet history. No shouting. No insults. Just truth. And truth wipes Brooke clean off her throne. Brooke's livestream was already unraveling when my name appeared in the chat. She had tried everything. Trembling voice, dramatic pauses, shaky explanations, but the viewers weren't buying it. They kept demanding one thing. Let Clara speak. Brooke hesitated. Her eyes darted across the screen, reading the flood of comments flying so fast they blurred into streaks of white and neon. Bring her in. Stop dodging. Clara has receipts. You owe her a chance. Her throat bobbed in a nervous swallow. Fine, she muttered. Join then. She tapped Add Guest with a trembling hand. The screen split in two. On one side, Brooke, puffy eyes, messy hair, panic thinly disguised as confidence. On the other, me, calm, steady, sitting in a quiet, well-lit hotel suite, a soft lamp glowing behind me. The contrast was brutal. "Hello, Brooke," I said softly. Her smile tried to appear polite but cracked instantly. "Clara, I didn't expect you to actually join," she stammered. "I know," I replied. "You rarely expect me to show up, even when it matters." The chat exploded. Fire, 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 fire. "Oh my God. This is cinema. Brooke is done. Get your popcorn." Clara came ready. I kept my tone gentle, the same tone I used when soothing Ethan as a child. "Brooke, you've made several accusations," I said. "Would you like to explain them again, now that I'm here?" I didn't lie," she snapped, though even she didn't sound convinced. "You ruined our wedding. You sabotaged our home. You've been manipulating Ethan for years." "Brooke," I interrupted softly, "can you give one example? Just one." Her mouth opened then closed. Silence. "That's what I thought," I said quietly. The chat went wild. "Brooke has no examples, loudly crying face, loudly crying face." She wasn't ready for this level of calm violence. Clara is slicing her with kindness. Brooke's voice rose, desperate. "You edited those recordings. You put them out of context." I leaned slightly closer to the camera. "Brooke, when someone says you have no dignity or you're a burden, what context makes that acceptable?" Her face flushed. "That came from frustration." "No," I said gently. "It came from who you truly are." Brooke's lip trembled. She tried a different attack. "You're jealous. You couldn't stand that Ethan chose me." "Chosen?" I repeated softly. "Brooke, he didn't choose you. He followed you. There's a difference." More comments flooded. "Clara is speaking facts. Brooke is fumbling. Clara's tone is lethal." Brooke tried to regain her footing. "You're twisting everything. You're making people pity you." I shook my head. "I didn't twist anything, Brooke. I simply shared the truth you hoped no one would ever see." Her eyes flicked away, tears gathering. I continued, still gentle, still steady. "You treated me like an inconvenience. A nuisance. A problem interfering with your perfect image." Brooke's voice cracked. "I was stressed, okay? I didn't mean half the things I said." "But you said them," I replied. Repeatedly. Without hesitation. "And Ethan? He let you." Brooke suddenly erupted. "He never stopped you because you drove him insane. You hovered over him. You guilt-tripped him." I smiled, a small sad smile. "Brooke, I was invisible to him. You made sure of that." Her shoulders slumped. For the first time she looked genuinely small. I didn't know," she whispered. "Didn't know what?" I asked kindly. "That you actually cared." The chat went silent, stunned. Then, "Wow." She finally realized. "This is the saddest thing yet." I spoke carefully now, each word measured. "Brooke, I gave your husband a life, a childhood, a future. And all I wanted was a place at his wedding. Not the spotlight, just a seat in the last row." She cried soft, helpless sobs. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I didn't triumph. I just said, "I never wanted to be your enemy, but you left me no other role." Brooke wiped her eyes. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. "Nothing," I said. "I'm done wanting things from people who don't want me." Silence hung heavy in the live stream. And then, I ended the call myself. The screen returned to Brooke alone. Red-eyed, trembling, destroyed not by insults, but by truth spoken gently. The internet crowned its verdict instantly. Clara won. Without shouting. Without cruelty. With nothing but reality. But the fallout has only begun. In the next module, Ethan returns home to a wife collapsing under the weight of truth, a house slipping away, and a life crumbling. And for the first time he sees who he really is. When the live stream ended, the internet had already chosen its side, and Brooke wasn't on it. Ethan didn't know any of this when he walked into the house carrying a grocery bag with discount noodles and a carton of milk he hoped his card would cover. He stopped cold. Brooke sat on the floor, surrounded by tissues, shattered glass, a broken picture frame, and her phone buzzing nonstop with notifications she couldn't escape. Mascara streaked her cheeks. Her breathing was shallow. She looked devastated, but not guilty. She wasn't crying because she had hurt someone. She was crying because people saw it. Ethan dropped the groceries. "What happened?" he whispered. "She joined the live stream." Brooke choked. "Ethan, your mother destroyed me." He knelt beside her, dread crawling up his spine. "What did she do?" Brooke held out her phone with trembling fingers. "She told the truth." Ethan sat beside her and watched the entire replay. The split-screen confrontation, the comments storm, the audio recordings, the receipts, every moment. He heard Brooke's insults. He heard his own voice, distant, cold, arrogant. When the clip played, "Did you really think you were going to be invited?" Ethan flinched like he had been slapped. Then another memory flashed in his mind, so vivid it almost hurt. His mother sewing patches onto his school uniform at 2 a.m. Tired eyes, quiet humming, hands moving gently so he wouldn't be teased at school. It hit him like a punch. The mother he had humiliated was the same woman who once held his entire world together with needle and thread. Brooke kept ranting through her tears. "My job is gone. My reputation is gone. They're calling me a monster. Ethan, do something." But Ethan wasn't listening anymore. For the first time in his adult life, he was listening to himself. "What have we done?" he whispered. The words tasted like guilt for the first time in his life. Brooke snapped back instantly. "Oh please, Ethan. Don't start feeling sorry for her now." He blinked at her, stunned by the lack of remorse. "She's in a luxury hotel," Brooke spat. "She's the internet's angel now. You think she'll forgive you? She doesn't need you. The whole world is on her side." Ethan didn't argue, because he knew she was right. Later that night he wandered through the house, every room echoing with a strange emptiness. The house felt colder than usual, as if it finally belonged to no one. He touched the walls, the furniture, the framed photos, realizing that none of it had been earned. None of it was his. All of it had been held up by Clara's hidden sacrifices. He sat on the edge of the bed, hands shaking, breath uneven. "I have to try to fix this," he whispered into the dark. "I have to." Brooke scoffed. "Good luck. She's done with us." Ethan didn't reply, because deep inside, he already knew she was right about one thing. He hadn't just lost a house. He hadn't just lost money or status. He hadn't even lost control of a narrative. He had lost the one person who ever loved him without conditions, and he might never get her back. In the next module, Ethan gathers the courage to find Clara, only to discover that she has built a new life, one where his absence isn't a wound, but a relief. Ethan didn't sleep that night. Guilt had settled into him like cold air seeping under a door. Quiet, creeping, impossible to shake off. By morning, he made a decision. He would go see Clara. Not to fix his life, but to acknowledge the damage he caused. He dressed slowly, each piece of clothing feeling heavier than it should. Not one shirt, not one jacket, not one pair of shoes was truly his. Not when he now knew who paid for everything. He stepped outside and took a bus. Not a taxi. Not a rideshare. A simple, weathered city bus. The worn seats, dim lights, and rattling windows felt like a world he had never learned to navigate. The bus smelled faintly of rain and old fabric. Nothing like the polished world he once thought he belonged to. He sat quietly, hands clasped, staring at his reflection in the scratched window. For the first time, he didn't like the man looking back. When the bus dropped him off near the hotel, the building towered above him. Elegant glass, polished stone, doormen in immaculate uniforms. A place that suited Clara more than he ever had. Inside, the lobby shimmered with soft piano music and warm lighting. Travelers rolled sleek suitcases across polished marble. Ethan approached the concierge desk. Hi, he stammered. "I'm here to see Clara. Clara Dawson. She's my..." The concierge raised an eyebrow. "Your mother." The single word stung. "Yes," Ethan whispered. The concierge typed a few keys, then looked up with professional distance. "The lady left instructions. She is not receiving visits from family." Ethan's breath caught. "There must be a mistake. I need to talk to her." "1 minute." The concierge shook his head. "She said, and I quote, 'He had his chance to speak to me at the wedding door. There will not be a second chance.'" It hit harder than anything Ethan had heard in his life. A child passing by tugged at his mother's hand. Why is that man crying? A few travelers looked away awkwardly, as if grief was something impolite to witness. Ethan sat down heavily on a lobby chair, staring at the floor. He reached for a hotel notepad and pen. His hands trembled. He began writing a message, then scratched it out, started again, then crossed it out. He rewrote one sentence 3 times, unsure how to speak to the woman he had silenced for years. Finally, he folded the note and handed it to the concierge. Please, just give it to her. The man nodded and disappeared into the elevator. Ethan waited, barely breathing. 5 minutes later, the concierge returned, holding the same folded note. The lady says, he read gently, I wish him well, but I am living my life now. Please tell him to be kind to himself. Compassion, even in rejection. That hurt the most. Ethan took the note. His hand shook until the paper crumpled between his fingers. He wasn't just being shut out of her life. He was witnessing a truth he never imagined. Clara had moved on. Not in anger. Not from spite. But with peace. A peace that no longer included him. But Ethan's guilt is only the beginning. Because outside the hotel doors, the world is already shifting. Clara's story is going global. And the consequences for Ethan and Brooke are about to escalate beyond anything they imagined. By the time Ethan walked out of the hotel, Clara's story had already stopped being a family conflict. It had become a phenomenon. What began as a small livestream between 2 tense women exploded into a global narrative, dissected, analyzed, memified, and elevated within hours. Hashtags blazed across every platform. Hashtag Team Clara. Hashtag Respect Your Mother. Hashtag Mother-in-Law Saga. Hashtag Clara the Queen. Millions watched the clip where Clara calmly presented facts while Brooke unraveled in real time. The world was mesmerized. People admired Clara's dignity, her restraint, her heartbreaking honesty, delivered with the gentleness of someone who had lived too much pain to waste time on anger. And in contrast, Brooke, every second of her meltdown was being remixed into internet culture. Her mascara-streaked face appeared in memes, edits, slowed-down reaction compilations, parody reenactments, stitched videos with dramatic music. One creator even reenacted her breakdown under theatrical lighting, with fake tears and over-the-top screaming. Millions watched it and laughed. Reactions poured in. She wasn't crying because she felt guilty. She was crying because she got caught. This woman is allergic to accountability. Imagine speaking to your husband's mother like this. Meanwhile, Clara's calm voice became iconic. Quotes from her live stream circulated like wisdom. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Love does not mean accepting abuse. Dignity must be protected, even from your own children. Mothers around the world stitched videos crying, thanking her. Overnight, Clara wasn't just viral. She was a symbol. Good Morning America, BBC, and several major outlets requested interviews within hours. Editorials called her the embodiment of quiet strength. One magazine wrote, she didn't raise her voice. She raised the bar. But for Ethan and Brooke, the internet had turned into a mirror they couldn't escape. When Ethan opened his phone, the first thing he saw was a clip of himself saying, "Did you really think you were going to be invited?" Looped, paused, slowed down for dramatic effect, captioned by millions. People even used his voice as a TikTok sound. POV when you forget who raised you. Another trending caption read, "This is what entitlement sounds like." Ethan stared at the screen in horror. Brooke was worse. She sat on the couch scrolling through thousands of furious messages. Some cruel, some mocking, some deeply disappointed. "Ethan, look at this." Her voice cracked. "Why are they doing this to me?" He didn't know how to tell her. They weren't attacking her. They were seeing her clearly. And they were right. She began pacing, shaking, breathing erratically. "This can't be happening. I can't survive this humiliation. Ethan, do something." But for the first time, Ethan didn't move. Because somewhere deep inside, he understood. "This isn't Clara destroying us," he whispered. "This is just the truth finally catching up." Brooke didn't want to hear it. She slammed her phone down, sobbing. Meanwhile, miles away, Clara sat alone in her hotel suite, watching the storm with a quiet expression. The glow of the screen washed over her face, but her eyes stayed distant, as if watching someone else's story. She wasn't rejoicing. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't feeding the flames. She was simply letting years of truth breathe in public. Outside her window, the city glittered peacefully, unaware that a 71-year-old woman had become its newest legend. But Clara's rising fame brings new challenges: TV interviews, letters from around the world, and an unexpected shift in public pressure. While Ethan and Brooke face consequences far harsher than online shame. The world didn't choose a side gently, chose it loudly. By the time morning light touched her hotel window, Clara's story had already surged through every corner of the internet, gathering momentum with the force of a tidal wave. But she didn't watch it with excitement. She watched it quietly, thoughtfully. The glow of the screen washed over her face, but her eyes stayed distant, as if she were watching someone else's story unfold, not her own. Messages poured in faster than she could count, from mothers who'd been dismissed, from daughters who now saw their mothers differently, from sons apologizing to the women who raised them. One message said, "You spoke for millions of us who were never heard." Another wrote, "You reminded me to call my mother." Clara placed a hand over her heart for a moment, remembering all the years she had lowered her voice, wondering if anyone would ever listen. Now thousands were listening, not out of duty but respect. She scrolled through emails. Good Morning America. Urgent interview request. BBC. We would like to feature your story. CNN. Conversation about parent-child boundaries. TEDx Geneva. Keynote invitation. It felt surreal. For decades she had been invisible by choice. Now the world was asking for her voice, her wisdom, her presence. She wasn't overwhelmed. She wasn't afraid. She was simply settling into a truth she once never believed. She mattered. Across town, Ethan and Brooke were drowning in the opposite tide. Their doorbell rang, not with visitors but with confrontation. Neighbors whispered. People stared. One elderly man shook his head at Ethan in disgust. At the grocery store, a mother muttered loudly, "That's the boy who told his mother she didn't fit his image." Ethan kept his eyes on the floor. But the worst came when he sat across from an employer during an interview. The hiring manager looked at his resume, then at his face, recognizing him instantly. "I'm sorry," the man said, gently but firmly. "Your public voice has become a liability." Ethan swallowed. He had never imagined his own voice, a single sentence spoken in cruelty, would be the reason a door closed. Brooke's situation wasn't any kinder. Her boutique application was rejected before she even reached the interview stage. Her relatives stopped answering calls. Old friends blocked her number. Everywhere they turned, consequences waited. They had wanted the world's approval. Now they couldn't escape its judgment. Meanwhile, Clara stepped into the hotel lobby to meet a small group of journalists. She moved with quiet grace, her scarf draped neatly, her posture calm. The marble reflected her footsteps, as if she had belonged there all along. A few people recognized her and smiled warmly. One elderly woman approached, voice trembling. "Mrs. Dawson, may I hug you?" Clara smiled softly. "Of course." The woman held her tightly. "You gave women like me courage," she whispered. "Bless you." Clara's eyes softened, absorbing the moment. Healing didn't arrive loudly. It arrived in small breaths, in strangers' words, in the reflection of a woman she finally recognized. For the first time in years, Clara felt her life expanding, not shrinking. And in that quiet expansion, one truth settled. She had not lost a son. She had reclaimed herself. But even as Clara rises, Ethan makes one final desperate move. A public plea that reaches millions, including Clara herself. The world didn't slow down after Clara's rise. It surged harder. Talk shows, podcasts, and family counselors dissected the situation. One panelist's line went viral across every platform. Entitlement grows where gratitude was never taught. People stitched it, quoted it, printed it over aesthetic backgrounds. Ethan watched all of it with hollow eyes. When he walked outside, the air felt sharp. It felt like every whisper in the street tilted toward him, every glance heavier, every step echoing reminders of his own cruelty. An elderly woman approached him outside a pharmacy. "You don't know what mothers go through," she said softly. "And your mother, she went through oceans." Ethan couldn't respond. Back home, Brooke was spiraling. She slammed her phone on the table. "Ethan, do something. Fix this, I can't breathe." He sat quietly, staring at the floor. "How do I fix what I destroyed?" he whispered. Brooke threw her hands up. "Oh, please. Guilt is useless. Action isn't." He looked at her with red, exhausted eyes. "I need to apologize." "So text her." Brooke snapped. "She blocked me," Ethan murmured. "Email then." "She marked it as spam." "Then show up again." He shook his head. "She doesn't want private apologies," he said. "She wants space." Brooke's face twisted in frustration. "Then what?" Ethan inhaled deeply. "I'll apologize publicly." Brooke froze. "You're going to humiliate us even more?" "We're already humiliated." His voice cracked. "It's time I admit what I am." That night, Ethan set up his phone on the kitchen table. A table Clara had bought, one of countless unseen sacrifices. He took a deep breath and hit go live. First a few joined, then hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. Is that him? He better be sorry. What now? Oh boy, here we go. Comments scrolled so fast they blurred into a waterfall. Ethan swallowed hard. "My name is Ethan Dawson," he began, voice trembling. "And I need to apologize. Publicly. Honestly." More people joined. The screen flooded. "I treated the woman who raised me like she was nothing," he said. "She gave me everything. I returned anger, entitlement, and cruelty." His voice cracked. "I said things no mother should ever hear." He rubbed his face, embarrassed by his own tears. But she wasn't lying. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't manipulative. She was hurting quietly while I kept making noise. A heavy silence fell across thousands of screens. "If you're watching, Mom, I don't want anything from you. Not money. Not help. Not forgiveness." He nearly broke down. "I just want you to know. I finally understand." The live stream went viral instantly. Stitched, shared, captioned. "A grown man learning too late. Accountability hurts. This is what regret looks like." Far away, in the soft quiet of her Geneva suite, Clara watched his apology. Her face stayed calm, but her heart tightened. She remembered the boy who once ran to her with scraped knees, crying because the world had been too harsh. And now he cried again. But this time the wound was something he inflicted himself. She whispered to the empty room. "Understanding doesn't undo harm." Her finger hovered over the respond button, then gently moved away. "Some doors must stay closed," she murmured, "even if the person outside is finally knocking." Outside her window, the city's twilight gleamed softly, beautiful, distant, and full of a peace she had earned. But the world isn't done shifting. In the next module, Brooke, desperate and spiraling, makes a reckless move that drags Clara back into the headlines and forces Clara to confront one last, unexpected battle. Brooke watched Ethan's public apology from behind the half-closed bedroom door. Not with guilt, not with understanding, but with pure rising panic. "This can't be happening," she whispered, clutching her hair. Her breathing turned sharp and uneven, like someone trapped in a shrinking room. Notifications exploded across her phone. Insults, analysis videos, memes of her crying face. And everywhere she looked, Clara was being called a saint. Brooke felt something inside her snap. She needed control. She needed the narrative back. She needed anyone to blame. So she chose the worst possible option. She went live. It was 11:47 p.m. when Brooke's shaky face filled the screen. "Hello everyone," she gasped. I need to tell the real truth." Thousands joined instantly, then tens of thousands. People sensed the drama. They gathered. Brooke sniffed loudly. "Clara, Ethan's mother, is not who you think she is." The comments flooded in immediately. A blinding waterfall of judgment. "Oh God, she's lying again. Girl, stop embarrassing yourself. We're not stupid. Take accountability for once." Brooke pressed on, voice cracking. "She manipulated us. She controlled Ethan with money. She staged the wedding scene." The chat exploded. Staged? She wasn't even on the list. You're rewriting reality. Stop digging. But Brooke couldn't stop. She spiraled deeper. She threatened us. She said she'd destroy us if we didn't obey her. Mid-rant, a viewer uploaded the hotel's security footage. Clara, walking into the hotel, calm and elegant. Ethan, breaking down in the parking lot. Brooke, screaming at him inside the car. The camera didn't lie. Brooke stared at the video midstream. Eyes wide, mouth trembling. She reached toward the screen, as if she could grab the video and stop it from spreading. But it was too late. The internet devoured it. Comments turned savage. She just caught herself in 4K. Sis, log off. This is tragic now. She's drowning in her own lies. Then her livestream abruptly cut out. A silence followed, the kind that only comes after a collapse. Across the ocean, Clara watched from her Geneva suite. Not with anger. Not with triumph. Just quiet, heavy sadness. Where Brooke shook, Clara simply breathed. She's drowning, Clara whispered. And panic makes people claw at anything they can pull down. Samuel called minutes later. I saw the live stream, he said. You want to proceed with defamation charges? Clara stepped to the window overlooking Lake Geneva, lights shimmering softly on the water. After a long pause, she said, Not yet. Samuel sounded confused. Not yet. She's not evil, Clara said quietly. She's terrified. Desperation makes children out of adults. Samuel sighed. You really are merciful. But Clara shook her head. No. Mercy would be pulling her out. This is simply stepping aside. Outside the night was calm. Inside her voice was steady. Some storms destroy. Others reveal what was already weak. And this storm had revealed everything. But Brooke's breakdown doesn't fade, it goes viral. Morning news channels pick it up, journalists demand statements, and Clara finds herself dragged into a spotlight she never asked for. Meanwhile, Ethan makes a decision that will change all three lives forever. By morning, Brooke's midnight breakdown had erupted into a worldwide spectacle. Her tear-smeared face was everywhere. Clipped into memes stitched with dramatic music, slowed down for effect. Social media chewed through her meltdown with ruthless appetite. Hashtag Brooke meltdown. Hashtag Team Clara. Hashtag Respect Your Mothers. Were trending across 3 continents. Brooke sat on the bedroom floor, knees pulled to her chest. Her hair clung to her face. Her breathing sharp as if she'd been running, though she hadn't moved an inch since last night. Ethan knocked softly. Brooke, just eat something. Go away, she whispered. He ignored it. She didn't even look up as he opened the door. Her eyes were glazed, fixed on the carpet fibers like she could fall right through them. They won't stop, she rasped. People won't stop. I'm the villain. I can't breathe, Ethan. He knelt beside her. We did this to ourselves, he said softly. No one ruined our lives. We handed them the match. Brooke jerked back, voice rising. No, this is her fault. Clara made us look like monsters. Ethan swallowed, voice breaking. We made ourselves look like monsters. Miles away, Clara sat by her window in Geneva, sipping warm tea as sunlight spread across the lake. But peace is never left alone for long. By noon, the hotel lobby was swarmed. Camera crews, journalists, influencers, people pretending to be hotel guests just to catch a glimpse of her. The concierge knocked, embarrassed. Miss Dawson, the press wants a statement. Clara smiled gently. Tell them I'm not a spectacle. I'm just living. But the world didn't agree. Email after email. Please come on air, the world needs you. Your story is changing people's lives. Can you fly to London tonight for an interview? Clara felt the weight creep in. The pressure. The eyes. The expectations. She remembered the years she waited for gratitude that never came. Now suddenly the world wanted every word she had ever swallowed. By late afternoon, she stepped into the hotel lobby in a soft blue coat and silk scarf. People rose to their feet without meaning to. The marble floors reflected her calm footsteps. Even the camera shutters paused for a heartbeat. A young woman approached with trembling hands. Mrs. Dawson, you made me call my mother today. Thank you. Clara squeezed her hand. I'm glad you did, dear. A journalist rushed forward. Clara, just one quote please. The world adores you. What do you want to say to Ethan and Brooke? Clara paused. The lobby held its breath. Her answer floated through the room like a soft ribbon of truth. I wished them healing. That was all. And yet it was everything. Back in their dim apartment, Ethan replayed the clip on his phone. Clara, graceful, composed, almost glowing in blue, saying she wished him healing. Not hate. Not bitterness. Healing. His chest tightened. He put the phone down, his hands trembling so violently the device almost slipped. I need to see her, he whispered. Brooke shot up, panicked. No, you're not going anywhere. Ethan didn't even turn to her. This isn't about you, he said quietly. He put on his jacket, and for the first time in years he didn't look uncertain. He looked determined. He stepped out of the apartment. He didn't lock the door behind him, as if he already knew he wouldn't return. In the final module, Ethan sets out to find Clara. But she has already made a decision that may close the last door between them forever. Ethan didn't remember most of the bus ride. He didn't remember the shifting city outside the window, or the quiet announcements echoing through the station, or the cold air washing over him as he stepped out. All he remembered was Clara in that blue coat, saying she wished him healing. That kind of gentleness broke a man more than anger ever could. He walked through the Geneva station, clutching the crumpled letter he had rewritten 7 times. The bus smelled faintly of rain and old fabric, a far cry from the polished world he once pretended to belong to. As he moved through the terminal, a few travelers glanced at him then quickly looked away, as if grief was something impolite to witness. He whispered to himself, "Find her before it's too late." Clara was in the garden behind her apartment, trimming her rose bushes. The late afternoon light painted the petals a deep crimson. The roses stood tall, tended with a patience Ethan had never learned. The intercom buzzed. "Miss Dawson," the concierge said. "There is a young man here to see you. He says his name is Ethan." The pruning shears paused midair. Not from fear. Not from anger. From memory. The memory of a small boy hiding behind her knees. The memory of tiny hands reaching for hers. The memory of a trembling voice saying, "Mom, please don't be mad." She closed her eyes, breathing softly. "Send him to the courtyard," she said. Ethan stepped through the wrought iron gate, chest tight, and then he saw her. Clara, 71, steady, radiant in a soft cardigan, roses framing her like a painting. His breath caught, the same way it used to when he feared disappointing her as a child. "Mom," he whispered. She didn't move, didn't rush to him, didn't look away either. He took one shaky step forward. "I'm sorry," he said, voice cracking instantly. "I am so sorry. I destroyed everything. I broke the only person who ever loved me without conditions." His voice splintered. "I don't want your money. I don't want the house. I don't want forgiveness. I just need you to know I finally see it. All of it. Every sacrifice." His knees hit the cold stone path. "I was blind, and selfish, and cruel." Clara stepped closer but not too close. She lowered herself slightly just to meet his eyes. "Ethan," she said softly, "I believe you." A tear slipped down his cheek. "But," she added gently, "belief isn't the same as returning to what we were." He nodded painfully. "I know." Clara looked at him, not as the man he had become, but as the boy he once was, the boy she raised alone. "You were my son," she said, voice steady, "and I loved you with everything I had." He sobbed quietly. "But love," she whispered, "should not destroy the person who gives it." Those words broke him completely. She placed one soft hand on his shoulder, not to pull him close, but to release him kindly. "I am healing now," she said. "And you must heal too." He nodded against the stone. She rose slowly. "I wish you a good life, Ethan." He swallowed. "Can I write to you?" he whispered. Clara hesitated. Not from cruelty. From clarity. "No," she said softly. "I'm closing this chapter." A long, painful silence hung between them. "Thank you for everything," he whispered. Clara turned to the garden gate and stepped through. The quiet click of the gate felt louder than any goodbye. Ethan didn't call after her. Didn't chase. didn't plead. He simply bowed his head, finally understanding a truth that had taken him a lifetime to learn. Some love survives by holding on, but the strongest love survives by letting go. Clara walked into the sunlight with calm steps, a woman unbroken, a woman reborn. Her story as a mother had ended. Her story as a free woman had finally begun. If this story touched your heart, if Clara's journey made you feel something deep, then don't let it end here. Please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need this lesson, and comment your thoughts below. Your words mean more than you know. They help this channel grow, and they inspire me to bring you more stories filled with emotion, reflection, and real human lessons. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, so you never miss another story that might stay with you long after it ends. Thank you for watching, thank you for feeling, and thank you for being part of this community. I'll see you in the next story, with a new heart, a new lesson, and a new journey. Take care. Red Heart.